What's up, YouTube? So I'm gonna be installing this Natica backup camera in a Pontiac GTO, and this camera has a OEM design to it. So I'll just open the box here, and here you got the cable that's needed to attach the camera from the rear to the head unit. They gave you a little trim panel removal tool, some zip ties, and this is the camera. Now with this camera, a hole has to be drilled at the mounting point so that this shaft could slide up, and then there's a nut that goes over it and that tightens it down. So when it's sitting in the car, it's gonna have that OE look to it. And these are just some shims that comes with it. They kind of offset the camera, depends on where you're gonna mount it. So if you gotta mount the camera and you need a little bit downward tilt to it, that's where those come in. And you can see they have a little offset to them, like a wedge shape. Different ones, different sizes. And I'm pretty sure if you need like more downward angle, you could actually double these up or triple them up, like so, versus using one. So I'll see how that goes. And then here we have some instructions and user manual. And that's that nut that goes on here. Now to install a unit like this, you actually need a head unit that could show the image of the camera, and there's already a head unit in this car, which is a Pioneer, where once the camera is hooked up to it, you could see it on the screen, the image that it's gonna show in the back. Now before I start any work, I'm gonna disconnect the positive cable, hang that off to the side. Now this whole trim panel has to come off, and in order to take that off, you're just gonna need pretty much these three basic tools. You got a stubby screwdriver, and it's all Phillips head. So we got a stubby, we got a regular, and the trim panel tool. And that's pretty much all that's needed to take the bezel off. Now I got to start off by removing this screw right here, and it's just right above that tray. So I got to remove the screw, then I remove this little rubber tray. So I grab my screwdriver, just got to get on that screw. Pop that screw out. And just got a hole on the back by the cup holder. And usually you could just pop this up and it pops right up. There we go. And once it starts coming up, then just starts to unsnap it. This where body trim tool come in. try to get under there and start prying it out. Now once I get to this point, that's when I remove this tray. Get that out of the way. Pull the e-brakes a little. Now once you get to about this point, there are some connectors for the power window, the door lock, and traction control. So I'm just going to reach under, squeeze the tab, and unplug those. So here are the connectors. I already have the power window disconnected. So now for the traction control. Squeeze that tab, unplug. Same thing for the door lock. And the door lock is the gray connector. Traction control is the black connector. Once those are off, it's just to pull it out, set that aside, and one half is off. Now the next set of screws are right here. We have one here, one here, and then up top I have to take this off. So here I grab my trim tool. Just want to get it between here. Just gonna pry it up. Get that off. And we have one screw here, 2, 3, 4, and then the 2 at the bottom. Now this is where the stubby screwdriver comes in. Fits right here. Take that off. And just be careful not to lose the screws. Sometimes they'll fall, and once they get down in here, it's kind of hard to get it out. And pretty much this is the clearance you're working with. You can see I could just get one finger before I'm touching the windshield. So that's why a stubby screwdriver is needed. Now if we go to the regular screwdriver, use that. Now for the 2 lower screws. Now once that's off, it's just to pull this bezel off, and then there's another connector in the back of this. You could see it right here, and that's for the hazard light. Squeeze and unplug, and just like that, that's off. The radio, well, this particular unit is being held in by 2 screws. And any aftermarket or any change you make with your radio, these 2 screws are always going to be the 2 screws that holds it on the GTO. So here I just get this screw off. There's 3 screws at the bottom. You're only taking out the 2 on the ends. Once that's out, the radio pulls straight out. Flip that down. Before I route any wire, I'm going to hook up the camera, make sure it's working, and then I'll connect the wires. Okay, so on the back of the radio, I know it looks confusing, but it's only 2 wires we got to worry about. And from the wire that came with the camera, that's how it looks. It has this red wire coming off of it. So this wire, the red wire, gets connected to whatever radio unit you have. It's gonna show you a little tag on there that says reverse signal input. So in my case, it's the purple and white wire. The red wire from off my cable attaches to it. That wire is whenever you put the car in reverse and the camera gets powered, it automatically switches the radio to give you the reverse screen. So I have that connected. I just put a little tape on there so it don't short out. And then now my other end, I connected to this brown connector, which if I follow this all the way down here, this is going to tell me what that brown connector is. And here it says rear view camera in. So I come back here and I plug this in. So in the back of the radio, these are the only 2 wires to worry about, and they're labeled. So once that's done, I'm just gonna push the radio back in just for better viewing. So here I got the radio back in. It's not screwed in, I just pushed it in and left it. Now that wire I connected in the back of the radio, it runs as maybe a 14 feet wire, and on the opposite end is this connector. That's where the camera is going to get plugged into. But before I plug the camera in, if you see it, look at it, you see it has a red and a black wire coming off of it. These are the 2 wires that you would hook up to your reverse light on your car. So you would go to the end of this and you splice the red into your reverse light. Where the two wires go in, you get the positive on the reverse light and you splice the red wire into it. The black, of course, is ground. You ground that. And what I did, just for testing purposes, I just got 2 cables coming from the battery, positive, and right there is a negative wire. So what I did was connect the positive from the camera wire. I connected that positive to the positive of the battery, and then this is the negative, the black one. I have it loose right now, but that one I'm going to connect it to the negative cable that I have coming from the battery. So we have positive, red, we have negative, black. They're both connected. Positive, negative. Now once that's done, I'm just gonna get the camera. That's the connector for the camera, and that's this wire that I showed you earlier, connector actually. Just gonna plug that in, and once that's in, the camera is connected. Now all I gotta do is put my ignition on and watch the monitor. Put my key in, turn my ignition on, my radio is coming up, and there you see, has the grid lines. Move it around, perfect. So now that the camera is working, I could go ahead and do the install. What I did, I ran the wire behind the dash, and I got my heat shrink on there, and I'm gonna solder mine. There's actually connectors that you could use, but I'm just gonna use a soldering iron and solder it. I'm just gonna wrap it. Like so. My heat shrink is on it. Here I got my soldering gun. And that's it. Doesn't need much. It's covered. Now I bring my shrink wrap up. Get it nice and centered. Grab my heat gun. Now I just gotta get this camera wire, plug that in. That was the brown one, and these are the only two connectors, like I said, that's needed in the back of the radio. Now it's just to mount the radio, put it back in, and then continue running the wire to the back. So once the radio part is done, I got everything buttoned back up, snap back into place, all screwed in. And this is the camera wire that goes to the back of the radio. So I'm just going to route this across the dash, under the dash actually, down the side panel, and then all the way to the back. And I'm going to hide the wire under this panel right here. And they provide enough wires as to where you could actually run it up along the ceiling and take it all the way to the back, and just go down and find a hole behind the rear seat, and those just snap right out, and you could run it like that also. And here at the rear, my best mounting spot is actually going to be right below the Pontiac symbol, which is the center of the license plate. Right now I have a parking assist wired up there, but I'm going to remove that. I'll switch this over on the side, but this is exactly where I'm going to mount the camera. Now I want to have this install looking as professional and OEM as possible, so I'm going to remove lift the trunk lid, and I'm just going to remove the panel. And I'm using the tool, the trim panel tool. Just wedge it in, pops right out. That's how it looks when it comes out. And it's about, I want to say about 18 clips that holds it. That's what they look like. They're all the same. Now that I have them removed, pop this last one out. And this whole piece comes right out. Now I have the lid exposed on the inside, so I'll show you exactly what has to be removed. And here I got an 8mm socket, so I'm just gonna take these out first. Same thing on the other side. And they have a little rubber washer on them. Once those are out, I switch to my T20. That's for these screws right here. So all the ones on the edge are taken out. Now I head to the inside. Now inside, head back for my 8mm and taking this nut off right here. And it's a deep well socket. Same thing on the opposite side. Push on this side. See movement. Now I just gotta disconnect the switch for the trunk. I got a needle nose. I just wrapped some tape around it, but just disconnect the battery just to make sure. Just gonna grab the connector, not too tight. Just pry that off. Same thing for the bottom one. Grab it. Pry that off. Then the screw gotta come out. And the whole switch is out. Now once that switch is out, it's identical on both sides, where there's a little cutout right here, and there's one on the other side where the switch was. The reason for removing the switch is to get access to this tab that has to come out. Now the way that tab works is you gotta push on this side, push it in, and then the same on the opposite side. There's actually a hole through the bottom right here of the trunk where I'm just going up with a pick and I'm pressing on the back side of this, the back of the tab, and then I press on the front with my finger and push it out. Okay, so that's loose. And I do the same for the side I just took the switch from. This is the side for the switch. See the tab right there? Press on that tab. Come in from the back. Try to push on the back side while I push on the front. And you may have to play with both sides like that. Sometimes it's you get one side out, the other side snaps back in. Okay. And directly above the two bottom ones, there are two top ones, so one on each side. Okay, got that snapped out. This is on the other side. Just squeeze the tab or pinch it, push up on it. Sometimes they snap back in, so you just gotta try to do it. Maybe find a way to hold it or get the bottom one out, and when you get the bottom one, then you pinch the top one and push it out. Then it's to take the license plate lights out, and it's just a little tab. You squeeze, pull it out, twist it. Same on the other side, little tab, push, comes right out. Twist it counterclockwise. Put the bulbs in. And then from here, this whole piece is ready to get taken off. Now I got a wire attached for the my parking assist, so I'm just gonna have to disconnect that. And the tabs that had to get pressed to remove the bracket, this is what it looks like. I took them out completely, and you just gotta squeeze the sides right here, and once you squeeze it, it pops out. So just to give a better idea, that's how they look. So right here is where I'm going to mount the camera, right in the center, and I'm going to recess it a little bit. That way it's not like visible once you look at the vehicle. So I have it marked where this is 4 inches across, putting it in the center at 2 inches, and then I've moved it up about 1 inch from the back. So really I have it at 1 inch and 1/8, and I'm going to drill that on the center, and by the time the camera goes in, the camera would be about 1 inch from the back here, and 2 inches on each side. I'm just going to go with a small drill bit. Go through with that, and I need a hole about 1/4 of an inch. A little bigger. And if this gets scuffed up, you don't necessarily have to worry about it getting any kind of rust. It's plastic. So it's got to be a little bit bigger than 1/4 of an inch. And I'm using one of those step drill bits. Perfect. Once it's drilled, I mounted the camera. I used some of the spacers to give it an angle. You see from the side, you got an angle, pitching slightly downwards. I had to fit it a few times just to make sure I had it correct. have all the lines, the grid lines lined up straight. But that part takes some patience, but once it's done, it's perfect. So here it's mounted, and I just got to put this back on the vehicle. Now, right where the wire comes in through the back from the camera, I'm just gonna route it up and through the trunk all the way across, and then I'm gonna bring it down on the hinge right next to this wire right here. Go all the way in with it, and then I'll just route it across the top here back over to the driver's side, and then bring it down back here. And these wires are actually the wires I'm going to tap into, but to give you a better view closer to the lights, if you look right where the wires come in from outside, and this is, I took the light out, so this is the reverse light. We have the power and we have ground. So if we come in here, you can see the yellow wire, that's the power wire. Now on that wire, that's where I'm gonna get my power for the camera, which is this red wire. I'm gonna tie it into this yellow wire. Once that's on, then for my ground, I'm gonna find a spot on the body, like somewhere here. Once I peel this carpet back, then I'll be able to see a mounting point or a screw. There's a screw right down here. If you look right there, you can see it. I could tap into that and just put a spade connector on this and screw it in. Now for this end, which is coming off the power wire, that actually plugs into the camera itself. So this plugs in here, like so, and that's it. So all this is going to be tucked up under here and behind the carpet. I'm not going to show that part of the install. It's going to take up a lot of video time, but that's the idea. To tap into the power wire for the reverse. The best way to figure it out, if you don't want to use a multimeter to test it, is to take the light out, put the car in reverse with the ignition on. You don't have to start it. Ignition on, put it in reverse, and you'll see which light comes on. And if you take the bulb out, the reverse bulb, you see that connector in the bottom, that's the power. If you flip the connector around, you could see right here where it comes in, and that's the one at the bottom. This one that goes in through the side, that's this connector on the side right here, which is the ground. And that's the finished product. Standing looking directly at it, you could barely see the camera, which is exactly what I like. And if I go at a lower angle, you see it's nice and flush. And now I'm inside the car. Put it in reverse. Here goes the camera. The grid lines are nice and even. I did some measurements on it and they all checked out. The red line gives me about 2 feet of space. The yellow line, that gives me about 4 feet. So everything is pretty much set. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.